Welcome to the Writing with Purpose podcast, where I, Anna Woolliscroft, chat with fellow writers and outdoor enthusiasts about how we can embrace creativity and curiosity to live a life full of adventure that doesn't feel like hard work. I delve into exploratory conversations about my two loves in life, writing and nature connection, as part of my mission to share the well-being benefits they both bring. It's wonderful to have you here today. Hello and welcome to another episode of Writing with Purpose, the podcast that talks about writing words for wellness, nature, and discovering a nourishing connection with nature and creativity, and that is exploring your authentic self. Now, today's episode has been inspired really over me recording 5 episodes of this podcast over the last 2 days. So today is the last episode of my solo chatting for a period of time, and then I'm going to share some interviews with you. And the people I've been speaking to, you're in for a treat. I've been talking to outdoor wellness coaches, mindset coaches, authors, and I won't say too much because there's a lot of good stuff and insightful stuff and creative stuff that's going to come over the next 6 weeks or so. But I've been inspired by these conversations with people, and I want to kick off really talking about writing for well-being and those words of wellness. And when it comes to creating content, certainly from a professional point of view, my preference is writing. I've always been drawn to the written word, or that's always been my preferred choice. And that's partly because I've probably hidden behind the written word. I've never really been the kind of person that likes to be in the limelight, never been the kind of person who wants to be put on the spot and asked questions. And I can think of times in developmental years where that has kind of quashed my confidence a little bit, let's say, when I did speak up, and then what I got in return was not the best. Anyway, so writing is my preferred choice instead of, for example, video or design, so taking photographs or designing artwork, and indeed talking. However, after recording the 5 podcasts over the last couple of days, I've realised that I actually love conversations and having conversations with people. And I don't mean small talk, I'm talking about deeper conversations. So conversations where we're asked a question or we talk about a topic and it really stretches our thinking, and it stretches the maybe the social boundaries, so boundaries of society, all of those social constructs that are built as we develop, as we get into a career and work, start a family, all those sorts of things which kind of tell us that we need to do things a certain way. Whereas quite often when you're just having a conversation with somebody, you can break down some of those boundaries a little bit, some of those rules, and you can just have a really deep conversation about thoughts, feelings, let your imagination run wild. And it struck me after the last podcast today how similar that is to journaling. So to taking out a pen and a paper, or if you prefer, an electronic app to write down thoughts and feelings, but how similar having that deep conversation with somebody who is like-minded, not necessarily who perhaps works in the same industry or has some of the same hobbies as you, but somebody who's willing to ask deeper questions and talk on a deeper level. And there's this kind of, it's difficult to describe if you're not used to this, but you do connect over a deeper level with people in that kind of discussion. And one thing that I've noticed that sort of brings this out for me and has probably tipped my tipped is possibly the wrong word, but has probably really encouraged me to enjoy these conversations, is that I've stopped planning I've stopped planning the podcast session. Yes, I do a little bit of research of the person that I'm talking to, of my guest. I want to make sure that I introduce them properly. I want to make sure that I know a little bit of history, where they've come from, what they've done, to ask certain questions. But I don't want to stick to a script, either the script coming from me, or I don't want the person to feel as though they have to answer certain questions. So it's more a case of, let's introduce the guest, ask a couple of questions that tie in with something that they've already achieved, or perhaps something that they've been through, that helps to share their story in more detail, so that the listeners or the watchers, if they watch the video version, can get more of a feel for the guest. But then after that point, it's, well, let's just see where this conversation leads. And that's very, very similar to when you get a journal out, and when you just free flow, write. This could be morning pages when you first get up in the morning, and you just write down whatever is in your mind, and you let that lead to, again, wherever that might be, without worrying necessarily about the boundaries of grammar, spelling, proofreading, all of that sort of stuff, sentence structure, full stops. And it's amazing what comes out of it. And sometimes with journaling, you need a question, you need a prompt. I'm a big advocate of creativity cards, whether that be a sentence, whether it be an image, to just spark that conversation in your head to start flowing. So yeah, I've kind of realised that I really like this format and sharing these conversations. And one thing I've also realised with this latest 5 is that the podcasts seem to be getting longer. Now, whether that's a confidence thing from my part, that I'm getting into these conversations, maybe I'm being a little bit more daring with the questions that I ask, maybe sharing a little bit more from my end. But it's exactly like small talk. I'm not drawn to small talk. I don't like these little memes on social media particularly. I don't like these highly edited YouTube videos that just really I don't like them. I love the deeper, longer conversations. And it made me realise, because I was listening to a Dr. Rangan Chatterjee podcast at the weekend. He was interviewing Rick Rubin, who's recently written a book. Rick Rubin is he's works in the music industry, worked a lot with big names, and this conversation was probably almost 3 hours long. I think most of Dr. Chatterjee's conversations now are about 2 hours long, but it really allows him to get deep and get to know the person that he's interviewed, and that's what draws me into, I suppose, learning, having these realizations, is these deeper conversations. Yes, don't get me wrong, a bite-sized content, a headline, that kind of thing will draw you in, but you don't particularly gain value from that. The value that you gain is from the long-form content, the deeper conversation, the longer essay, the longer blog article, the ebook, the interactive, immersive ebook, because you're learning more, you're gaining more from that, and it helps with a growth mindset as well. It helps you to develop. It helps you with personal development, with self-development, and all these things are good things. So yeah, what I wanted to sort of share with you for the words of wellness section of this podcast is really just to if you're one of these people that thinks, I don't really know what to write, I don't know where to start with a journal, then how about having a conversation instead? How about finding a person that you feel you can open up to, maybe somebody that you look up to, who is a role model that you are just, you can engage with on that deeper level. I think if I had £1 for every time I said deeper level today, I would have made my hourly rate already. Anyway, so yeah, I encourage you to have those conversations with people. And I thought of a bit of an analogy that I thought worked quite well, was having these conversations, or indeed free flow writing in a journal, is like hydrating your imagination. And the more that you do it, the more you'll become like a sponge. You'll absorb the information that you're listening to, the topics that you're sharing, that you're talking about. And, you know, if we don't think about a plant, if you don't water a plant, it becomes dry. When you do try to water it, the water just goes straight through the soil and the roots and comes out the other side. There's nothing of that water that the plant or the soil is able to hang on to, because it's dried out. So when you're hydrating your mind, your imagination, your creativity, and I'm talking about this on an intellectual level, a creative level, an exploratory level, an experimental level. I'm not just talking about watching something on TV or gaming in that sense, because that's more of a passive activity, but rather something that is stimulating. And I think you can see that as well when you're in a conversation with somebody. You can see it in their body language, the way that they move, they become more animated, and all of these things, these conversations, this free flow writing, it's working up a thirst for your mind to want to know more, to stretch the boundaries that you've maybe felt restricted in to date, to test and to experiment. So I thought I would just offer that up as an option for you to consider. So, you know, if journaling and the thought of writing sometimes is a little bit, not sure, then have a conversation. You could even have a conversation with yourself. I have actually recorded myself on Zoom before now, having a conversation with myself, just because, in fact, this was about maybe 3 months ago when I did this for the first time. And I think subconsciously I was perhaps thinking what I'm sharing with you now, but I hadn't actually spoken it before, is that something different comes out when you're talking to somebody. It's a way of just speaking in the moment. And the same way that when you're journaling and you're free writing, that is what comes out in the moment. It's not something that's planned. It's not something that you thought, oh, I better not say that, or I better not write that because of, you know, fill in the blank. But it's true. It's more authentic. It's more, let's just see where it leads. So I have got some prompts for you to wrap up the Words for Wellness section, just to help you get your head around this in a little bit more some concrete way, if you like. So here are your journal prompts. What is your preferred media for creating content? Now, even if you don't create content for work, I'm sure that you create content or you share content in your personal life from a personal point of view. So what is it that you share? Do you share videos? Do you share pictures? Are you text only? You know, what is your preferred media for creating content? And equally, how do you digest the content? Hi, I'm back. You might have noticed a slight change in my voice there, or you might have even heard the doorbell ring. I've just had a blind delivery. I'm excited now. We're going to put some new blinds up in the bathroom and the landing. So, yeah, anyway, moving on. Let me just repeat those journal prompts for you. So, what is your preferred media for creating content? And how do you digest content? And what would you really like to talk about with your partner, with a friend, with somebody that you trust, that you value spending time with? What would you like to know from them? And create a list. Create a list of things that you would really love to talk to that person with. And if time wasn't restrictive, what would you want to learn more about? So this can be absolutely anything. What topic, what subject matter would you love to learn more about? And then who can you think of that you can talk to about this topic? And of course, you know what I'm going to say next. That is, take some steps to go and talk to this person or these people, and just see where that might lead for you. Okay, so moving on now to nature and to discover a nourishing connection section of this podcast. Now, at the weekend, I visited the National Running Show at the NEC in Birmingham with my partner. If you listen to this podcast, you will know that I am a trail runner. And I was looking forward to this show. I've never been before. I was looking forward to listening to some talks, just seeing what sort of innovative products and things are there on the market for runners, and it didn't disappoint. The one thing as well that stood out to me, apart from the fact that it was a really great positive atmosphere, thoroughly enjoyable. Everybody who was there was just they were all bubbling with energy. It was a great feel, a great environment to be in there, energetically speaking. But one of the things that really stood out to me was mindset and the determination of the people that were there, particularly the speakers. Now, I missed Mo Farah. He was talking in the morning, although I did manage to catch a glimpse of him after he got about he was having photographs taken. There was about a mile long queue of people waiting for a snapshot with him, so that was something that I wasn't really going to join for that long. But I'm sure he was extremely inspirational. But so were some of the other people that I listened to. And I'll be completely honest, they were people that I'd never heard of before, even though some of them were probably what you would call celebrities, maybe B-list celebrities. But yeah, I learned a lot from other people, seeing and hearing them talk about entering marathons, entering ultras, and just talking about their journeys. And it was motivational and inspiring. And I've often let doubt and fear of failure get the better of me. But thinking about it and hearing these people talk, the one thing that you can do is really just focus on the end outcome. And each day that you work towards that end outcome is just another day. So there's no point in worrying about an outcome and possibly not achieving that outcome, because you're not there yet, for one thing. And also enjoy the moment as you work up towards this end outcome. So if it's something physical like I'm really drawn to entering some ultras. For some reason, a marathon doesn't interest me, but an ultra does. And for those people that are unsure about what an ultra is, it's basically anything that's distance-wise above a marathon. It's usually 30-something miles or 50-something kilometres and above. So yeah, that's something that I'm drawn to, and I will need a bit of a training regime if I'm going to achieve that. But the training regime, what's important about that really is just to enjoy every day of that and every moment of that, and listening to the body, listening to the mind, and just being present with it and seeing where that leads and enjoying every single moment. So that it was very empowering for me that weekend. And I'm grateful to have been able to attend there, listen to some of those people, and then also to one of my friends in particular, Jo, who got me into trail running in the first place. Very grateful to her, because it was I would say, a life-changing experience for me. Never liked running before, but I think that was because I hated it at school. I didn't like a treadmill. But trail running is completely different. There's a lot out there in the countryside that you can take in, connect to, see, smell, hear while you're on the running journey, which you can't get from a gym, and you can't get that from school, because you're probably not you're not going to be that focused on what's around you at the time. Very grateful to Jo as well, and also to the couple of running groups that I am a member of. So one being a trail running group, and also one that's more of a road running group, which has improved my stamina for sure by running on the road, even though I don't enjoy it as much. So this section, really, I just want to encourage you to think about what kind of exercises you enjoy and how you can partake in more time with that exercise, so that you gain the movement benefits, the physical strength benefits, the focus, the habit forming of doing regular exercise. So some journal prompts for you for that. So what exercise do you enjoy? And I would encourage you to make a list and brainstorm how each form of exercise makes you feel. So it might be swimming, it might be running, it might be Pilates, whatever that is. There's no right or wrong with this. As long as it's something that makes you move, something that helps with your breathing, just something that helps you to feel good at the end of it, even if you feel shattered because you know that you've done a good workout. So, and then think a little bit more deeply about why does it make you feel this way? Why are you drawn to this exercise? How does it make you feel? And why do you think it makes you feel that way? And then what goals can you set around the types of exercises that you've picked out to actually achieve more of them, or to start this kind of exercise if you haven't done already? But think about them using the SMART acronym. So think about them as being specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and also time bound. And what you want to do if you're interested in starting something or upping something or setting a particular goal with a form of exercise is to make sure that it's actually achievable and that you don't fall down at the first hurdle. Excuse the pun. And also, who already does this form of exercise well? So who can you learn from? Who can you speak to? So a similar prompt really to thinking about conversations in the Words for Wellness section. Who can you learn from and who can you speak to make this goal more of a reality for you? And then I encourage you to make a plan that is progress, that maps out, that shapes some sort of progress towards the end goal. But also, like I said before about training for myself as well, it's something that you must enjoy each day of that journey. Don't let the goal get in the way of becoming a source of overwhelm for you, or I'm never going to achieve this, or it seems too far away. Just take little baby steps one day at a time and enjoy it for what it is. And you will gain so much more out of it. Okay, so now for creativity, exploring your authentic self. I always love anything to do with this because it really does start to question the fixed mindset and helps you to just find more about yourself that you didn't realize necessarily before. So I'm going to ask a question here. Who are you? Now, this is something that I've probably asked before, but it's something that can change often. We are not the same person as we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even last year. And you're certainly not the person you're going to be in 5 years' time as to who you are today. So one thing that I'm learning in the masters at the moment is I'm doing a module that's called Writing for the Self. And there's a lot of psychology and neuroscience and cognitive behavioral stuff within this module. It's absolutely fascinating. But one thing that's really interested me is this concept about the self. And how many different layers do we have of ourselves and in different environments, in situations with different people. And that can be very, very different. And it's interesting to lean into that and see where it might take you. And this is a great way to open the journal and just write about yourself from different perspectives, from your own perspective, maybe from somebody else's perspective, and just see what you come up with. So one thing that I've read recently is that yourself, so the self, if you like, is who you are, but stripped of any kind of surface level masks or clothes or anything that you might don in front of somebody else, if you like. And then your identity is who you think you are. And this can change based on sort of demographics, or psychographics, for example. So not just do what you do for a living or how old you are, sex, gender, how you identify in that sense, but also personality traits and your life cycle stage, the interests and attitudes and beliefs that you might have around certain concepts and things. And yeah, so that's your identity. And then your personality is who you play out in front of other people. So that is like the mask that you would put on when you're in front of friends, family, maybe a professional setting, maybe in a setting where you've never met people before. And that will change, and you will hopefully be aware of how that changes. And one thing that one cognitive psychologist called Ulrich Neisser, I think I've pronounced that right, put forward the idea that there are 5 selves, and this is really fascinating to think about. And you probably assign this a little bit more with an identity or a personality, but the ecological self is how you perceive yourself with respect to the physical environment. So you're in a place, you're here in that place, you might be engaged in a particular activity, and that's what you perceive about what you are doing in that particular environment. And the second one is the interpersonal self, which appears from early infancy, those child development years. And that's exactly like the ecological self does. They're both directly perceived. They are both something that starts from an early age. And this is specified by specific signals of emotion and rapport and communication with other people. So it's about human interaction, and you are the person who is engaged with these other people. That's the interpersonal self. The third self is the extended self, and this is primarily based on our memories and our anticipations. So you are the person, you've had experiences in your past, you regularly engage in certain activities, you've got routines and habits, and it's your extended self, not in the moment, but either side of this present moment would be perhaps a good way to explain that. The fourth self is the private self. And this kind of manifests itself as children when we first realise that actually some of our experiences are unique to us and they're not shared with other people. So, if you've fallen out of a tree, for example, which I did when I was a child, yes, other people might have seen that, but they're not experiencing your pain, maybe your humiliation, maybe how that happened. So that is the private self. And then the fifth self is the conceptual self, which is the self-concept of you. And that kind of, think about that as you drawing meaning from the perceptions and associations, the assumptions that you have around social roles and who you are to other people. So are you a partner, a husband, a wife, a mother, a father, a colleague? So, who are you in that sense? And that can be seen on more of a kind of physical level, maybe a spiritual level, and being seen as, the unconscious mind or the brain, or perhaps the liver or something like that. So there's these 5 selves, and this is a great exercise to journal around, because it really gets you to think deeply about those different parts of you and how you react alone, with other people, in certain situations, and how, what are those differences, and it helps you notice those differences. So if you're someone who's trying to improve your reaction to things, maybe you're trying to slow down and not be quite so impulsive about things, then you work into an exercise like this really helps you to sort of pinpoint the situations where they're serving you well or not serving you well, and the people who you are with, and the thoughts of that extended self. How much do you live in thinking about the past or worrying about the future? How much do you draw on memories and take comfort from certain things, or how much do you perceive about that and your current routines, if you like? So it's fascinating, and what I would encourage you to do is to have a go at these journal prompts. It might sound a little bit tricky to get your head around. I would definitely suggest to Google the Ulrich Neisser, and I'll share all the details in the show notes, as I usually do. But yeah, journal prompts for exploring your authentic self and your creativity. So who are you when you're alone, when you're in company, when you're reminiscing about something, when you're in a specific external environment, and pick what that might be. And how do you conceptually identify? So these really pick out those 5 different selves suggested by Ulrich Neisser. So have a think about this, and they will be very, very different, hopefully, and you might want to try this in different situations, particularly for the external environment, or maybe when you're in the company with different types of people. And just again, as with all of these things, free write, see where it leads you, see if you can spot any trends, see what you can identify, and lean into it a little bit more. Also, what version of yourself feels the most comfortable? And why do you think that is? So if you're most comfortable being alone, or maybe you're most comfortable outdoors, which I tend to be both of those things, although I do like to be in company, but I have to take it in chunks, shall we say. I can't constantly be in a room with people all day. It would just wipe me out. I'd be asleep as soon as I got home. So think about, what self do you feel most comfortable with, and why do you think that is? So just explore what new thoughts come into mind about the notion of these 5 selves. And I would love to hear what you think about that. So please do share a comment, or send me an email to hello@writingwithpurpose.co.uk. Let me know if you want more clarification on that, because it can be a concept that can be quite challenging to get your head around if you're not used to thinking on that sort of level, or thinking about yourself on that sort of level. So yeah, see where it might lead to you. And ultimately, a lot of this, what I've been talking about today, it's about self-awareness, and it's about thinking and behaving in a way that is to your advantage, holistically to your advantage, both mentally and physiologically. And that's a good thing. So I encourage you to try new activities, eat new foods, read different books, different genres of books, magazines, have conversations with different people, ask questions that you're intrigued with, that you've never approached before. Keep an open mind. And what all of these things will do over time, and for some of us it will be quite quickly, for others it might take a little longer, but what it will do is all lead to a more enriching experience of the present moment, and just result in a much more fulfilled life. So I hope that has been useful for you today. It's been a bit of an episode where I've just sort of thrown my thoughts out there based on a few things that have happened over the last 3 days. Hopefully I've inspired you in some way to maybe start a new sport or a new exercise, new activity. I've encouraged you to have conversations with more people, or given you some ideas of how to actually start journaling and see the benefits of writing with purpose, and also to think about what works well for you, as a self, as yourself, as your authentic self. So please do leave a review, subscribe to the podcast so that other people can find us, so that other people can share and gain the benefits of some of the interviews that I've got coming up. I can't wait for these interviews to be shared with you. I think you'll gain a lot from them. So please do subscribe so that you can listen to these as soon as they drop every Saturday at 8 a.m. And I shall leave you with a quote, which is, if we do not create and control our environment controls us. And that's by Marshall Goldsmith. Thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate your time. I want to learn from you as well. So please do connect with me, journaling with Anna, on various social media platforms. And I will speak to you next time. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to today's Writing with Purpose podcast. Having conversations with fellow writers or adventure enthusiasts brings 2 of my biggest loves in life together: writing and nature connection. I've been a copywriter and content creator for 23 years, but my passion is writing for well-being, and I'm on a mission to share the benefits that putting pen to paper has for personal wellness with as many people as possible. If you want to learn more about writing for your well-being and journaling techniques, please connect with me in my Facebook group, Journaling with Anna.